One of the things that I see happen a lot, people start recognizing, oh, we have travel in June, we have this coming up, families coming here in the beginning of July. And sometimes the question they ask me is, how much weight can I lose by then? And then it's about how hard can I fast? How intense can I make these next 2 months? And I encourage them to focus on the habits and the behaviors rather than the outcome.
Hi everyone, it's Megan Ramos here with another episode of the Fasting Method podcast. Today I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Dr. Terri Lance, and we're going to dive into March's theme at the Fasting Method. People are eager to fast. We like to talk about turning up the fasting dial, but in ways that are going to help people actually succeed in March versus kind of being all over the place and tripping over their feet left, right, and center. Terri, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. March is a good month. I'm excited about this. Lots going on. Birthday month for me, so it's all good.
March is a good month. The weather's turning nice. People are eager to get outside, starting to get a little bit more vitamin D, feeling inspired. And it's great. The whole mood always changes and shifts when spring kicks in. So I always look forward to March, but one of the things that we always see is that this inspiration, this seasonal renewal really inspires people to say, okay, we're going to get on track. We're going to be super strict. We're going to plan these sort of elaborate fasting strategies. And Terri and I were just talking, January can be a murky month for a lot of individuals coming out of the holidays, struggling to find their footing after whatever's transpired during Christmas and New Year's. And then in February, vitamin D is at the lowest it is all year long. Motivation dwindles. We're so sick and tired of winter, rainy season. But we're doing small things to help get back on track. And I'd say most people have a really successful February. And then March comes. People realize as those vacations are coming up, summer is going to present some disequilibrium. They know their progress is going to slow down some because things are going to be out of routine. And people are feeling highly motivated, especially coming off of a successful month like February. Part of the reason why we see February be so successful is because people are making small changes gradually and letting them build up over time. And historically, we've always actually encouraged people to make the most out of March and April. Fasting is not something that you can do at the same pace for every season. It's something that does ebb and flow with ups and downs in our routine. So it is a good time, but how to do it with structure, how to do it so you're actually making progress versus feeling pretty bummed out at the end of the month. We want you to keep up that seasonal high energy and carry it into the rest of the spring and the summer. So Terri, what are some of your thoughts as we go into this month where people are just really wanting to crank up their fasting strategies?
One of the things that I see happen a lot, as you mentioned, Megan, people start recognizing, oh, we have travel in June, we have this coming up, families coming here in the beginning of July. And sometimes the question they ask me is, how much weight can I lose by then? And then it's about how hard can I fast? How intense can I make these next 2 months? And I encourage them to focus on the habits and the behaviors rather than the outcome. How many fasts can you do? How many good days of eating can you have versus how many pounds can you lose in this time? So I think for some of us, there's a mindset piece to this that we do better when we focus on how can I set myself up during this next busy time and in a way that I can carry through with some consistency through the more chaotic time of summer. But if we're focused on the weight, the number of pounds, people are hopping on the scale 3 times a day to see, oh, I went down 0.4 pounds and oh, shoot, I went up 0.6, and just kind of the fever of it by focusing on the pounds versus the behaviors. How many habits can I instill during this time that will carry me through the summer months? How many good fasts can I get in? How many good eating days can I get in? I think that's an important mindset shift.
Absolutely. I hear it all the time. I actually have clients now, or for the last few weeks, that have been sort of aggressively trying to strategize on paper, like what March looks like for them. This is the week I'm going to do a 5-day fast. This week I might try to do 5 to 10, which means we'll see how the week after plays out. We're going to do, 66 plus 48. And I think you have to plan. Preparation is key for success. But one of the things I always caution people is trying to plan beyond 2 weeks. We have to be realistic about what happens in life. Life happens. A couple of weeks ago, we all fell sick at our household. We rarely get sick, ever. It's not something I would even really factor in, especially at this time of year. But my husband came home from work and we fell like dominoes. And it screwed up our routine and our own plans. So life happens, right? And a lot of things happen outside of our control. One of the things that I see so much every fasting aggressive season, where we're really cranking up the dial, is people making these really elaborate plans. And then things do happen, whether it might be work stress that derails sleep, a family event, they fall down with a cold, something happens. And then there's no pivot plan, there's no backup plan. There was just this really aggressive plan, to try to do a lot of fasting and to stick to a routine. I'm human too. I've experienced this where if your week doesn't go to plan, you can say, oh, to heck with it. I'll start fresh next week. I mean, that's a mindset where I think we're all guilty of falling into often. And what I see is a lot of people, in February, they plan these elaborate marches. And then life happens and they don't pivot. They don't have a backup plan. They just have something that's really intense where all the stars need to align for it to be feasible for them to do. And then they end up with nothing at the end of March. So one of the things I try to encourage, a tip, is look at the calendar, look at 1 to 2 weeks at a time, write it down. I'm such a huge fan of that. Like having a printout calendar or a paper calendar on your fridge or wherever you're going to see it, have it written down so you are aware, but not to plan more than that. And another thing I've really been trying to focus on is, we've had a couple of kind of crazy years and we've had people stumble over their own footing, but there's been a lot of stuff going on. And I'm trying to think back to, what did we used to do when we started that was so successful? Because we never had people doing crazy intensive fasts at the beginning, not even for years, like a few years before we even had people doing extended fasts like 7 days. And it was truly the alternate daily fasting. Fast, eat, fast, eat, fast, eat. That just enables so much more consistency, so much more likeliness of success, and actually a lot more number of days spent in a fast at the end of the month than if you were to do like 2 5-day fasts throughout the course of the month. So 100%, Terri, how many fasting days can you do, but be able to do successfully? And I really love the alternate daily fasting strategy. I started trying to get my own clients back in this, like 2012 mentality that we had. And even if those days ended up being 24s because they had a holiday event, they were able to maintain consistency and got in a ton of fasting days over the holidays. And so many of them came back having maintained or lost weight in January and not having that January mess. They're all amazed. We're like, we didn't do a ton of 5-day fasts, even though there is some festive eating here or there, but we were able to stick to our alternate daily fasts, even if that meant substituting some of our 36 or 42s with 24s because of an event. And a lot of them said it makes it really easy to do over the course of a weekend as well, because you can just do a 24 if it's intended to be a fasting day. Giving yourself that ability to switch to a 24 to maintain your consistency, it makes a big difference at the end of the month. So those are some of the strategies that I've been really working on with my TFM clients and members.
Along with that, Megan, I think not only planning your fast, but planning your meals, planning how you're going to eat during this time, because These two skills really work together. I've said this before in podcasts, and I say it a lot in the community and with my clients. But many people get in the mindset that I'm just going to do a lot of intense fasting. In some ways, it helps them avoid the harder part, which is actually the eating part. I encourage the alternate day fasting because it keeps you having to work on that relationship. If you keep taking long segments of time away from that relationship, you're not resolving it. You're not improving it. You're not figuring out how to make it work better. You're just avoiding it. I fear for people when they start really leaning into that, that they're setting themselves up for challenges in the future because they may get some results from some of this more intense work that they're doing fasting wise, but they haven't worked on the relationship with food. And here we come into summer with more cookouts, more socializing, going to the lake for the weekend, all of these things. We've got to work on the relationship with food now while we are doing significant fasting for ourselves.
Oh, 100%. Like you can't outfast it. You have to deal with it. People not dealing with it's kind of the number one reason why they're not able to lose that last 20 pounds or 10 pounds, and why they're never able to maintain and get stuck on the hamster wheel. And so it's just the focus. Well, I'll just keep fasting. Fasting's easier than eating. If these are thoughts that you're having, you do need to spend time eating and practicing. And this is actually a really great season to do so. Because even if you live in a wintry climate, farmers markets are starting to open. You're getting lots of fresh local produce. Things are more easily available. They're going to last longer because they're fresh and local too. It's a lower carb season as well. We're not seeing all the root vegetables and all that pour into the farmers markets like we do over fall and winter. This is a great season for variety, for lower carb. So there's a lot to experiment with when it comes to eating. But it does take time. I always think it's important to write down when you fast, what you're going to eat, and what you plan on eating. So something that we did in our household is, you can really kind of fall into ruts and pits, but things need to be practical too at the same time. And meals need to be efficient and easy. My husband and I dedicated a month where we would write down what our meals are, and we would talk at the end of the week, what worked for us, what was feasible for cooking, what did we enjoy or not enjoy about it. And then we had a plan. We had like a 4-week eating plan of the different types of meals. And we weren't always trying to figure out what it is and reinvent the wheel each and every week. We had a month worth of food to pull from. So having a list of a few weeks worth of meals that you enjoy, having great access to food, and also, writing down specifically what it is that you need when you are going to go shopping, whether it be at a farmer's market or at the grocery store. Because when you have a list of exactly what you need, you're more likely to stick with it rather than just browsing the aisles and seeing what looks good and buying a whole bunch of food. And then, there's guilt and pressure and you feel like you need to eat it before it goes bad because you spent money on it. So planning preparation around food is really, really important. And we do need to eat as well in order to lose weight. It's not just all about the fasting. I think people forget that, the idea that some fasting is good for us, so a whole lot of it all of the time must be even better for us for our journeys. That's not the case. You need to have a balance out. You need to make sure that you are getting in all the micronutrients and macronutrients that you need, especially as you lose weight. It becomes more important to focus on that too. So I'm a big fan of utilizing this season of all seasons that happen throughout the year to focus on eating. It's just the easiest time to be able to do so.
And going back to what you said earlier, Megan, about even with the best plans, life changes, even when you aren't expecting that it will. I have been emphasizing a lot with my clients, making sure that you have some safe foods that work well for your body, that you enjoy the taste of, that are convenient. Because when life changes and we move into convenience, that's when we get out the food ordering apps. That's when we go through the drive-through. That's when we start seeing if anyone else has left anything in our cabinets that would easily fulfill our appetite, versus if we have some convenient, healthy things available. There are days when I come home and I just think, oh, I just really don't want to make a meal right now. So it's good if I have some already prepped, some frozen meals, maybe I've done some batch cooking, but also I have a pull-out drawer in our pantry that is mostly filled with tuna fish, because I can pull out a jar of tuna fish and eat that within 90 seconds of getting started. So I don't have to make a complicated meal. But what I have for convenience also works well and supports me nutritionally and doesn't start a whole bunch of cravings. I don't start craving tuna fish when I eat that. So it's very safe for me and very convenient.
Yeah, I've always been one myself and to recommend like charcuterie items, just having them on hand. When you have a day you get stuck in traffic, when life is crazy, you can always throw together like a little charcuterie plate. It can totally make a meal. It's protein heavy, it's fat heavy. You can go to town with it. It doesn't need to be this big elaborate thing, and it can take less than 5 or 10 minutes even to throw together. And there's no fast food or app that is quicker than that. So having these things on hand can make a really big difference, especially, I know we've got a handful of members who are going to be helping out with grandchildren and nieces and nephews when they have their spring breaks coming up, because other parents, need to continue working. And they're a little bit nervous because these kids usually come with a lot of food and garbage at that, unfortunately. And the thing is, having your foods, having really quick and easy foods, making some hard-boiled eggs, getting some packs of olives, having some sort of mixed nuts in a smaller portion even can make a big difference when there's an even bigger craving that's present. And I get tons of charcuterie items. I encourage people to lean more into sheep and goat cheeses and dairy cheeses, especially if they don't understand or know the sourcing of it. But this can really help, especially when you do have a busy or hectic time, if you are going to be babysitting this holiday season. Something else that you said at the beginning, Terri, was, people weigh themselves a few times throughout the day. And I'm not an anti-scale person. I know I can definitely sound like one at times, and I'll encourage people to put their scale away for a month or two at a time, or only check once a week. But I do believe in general the scale can be used appropriately, why not overused as a policing item or a motivating tool. But when you are turning up the fasting dial, you are going to be losing fat and you are going to be helping your body retain some lean mass. Can't tell you the number of women who in our community reached out about things like osteoporosis or fasting around weight training. All these great other health initiatives that they're trying to work on in addition to losing weight. And those things, improving bone mass density, improving muscle mass, they're going to cause good weight gain. And like we've talked about so many times, is it sometimes negates the fat loss when you stand on the scale. So one of the things is, we do understand that you need something that's going to help light that fire and keep you going. You've heard Terri and I talk, we don't want to rely on motivation, but we do need some type of tool of accountability. And I encourage people, especially during periods where they're going to be really ramping up the fasting dial and zeroing in on a type of metric to really determine their success. There's a couple of things. Don't stand on the scale. Don't use the scale alone anyways as that main tool. Let's start to focus on inches. Let's look at that, especially if you are working on bone mass density. You're also looking at putting on lean mass and you're being more active. The season's going to cause more activity too. So whether you like it or not, you're going to be helping your body get stronger. So you've got to look at other metrics. Jason and I were always huge fans of measuring patients in clinic. He still uses the old school measuring tape in his office when he's helping people out. I'm more interested in how your dream pair of pants are fitting you. Are they feeling snug? Are they feeling loose? Are you noticing anything? I rarely ask anyone if their weight has changed. I ask them how their pants have changed. So measuring tapes are really simple. I'm sure most of you out there have one in a sewing basket somewhere that you can use. And start picking a few spots on your body. Measure those a little bit more consistently. A cool device that has come out in the last little while is something called the Zozo Fit. Have any of your clients been using the Zozo Fit?
No, I've not heard much about this.
So Coach Andrea, who was with our team for a long time, we missed her very much. She was the gadget and gizmo lady. She's like everybody's favorite aunt. She's got all of the cool food tricks. She's got all of the cool technology. She stays up to date with all of this stuff. So when she was back at the Fasting Method for a bit, helping us out in the community between projects she had going on, she started talking about the Zozo Fit. For those who have been around TFM long enough, know Andrea is on the pulse of all of this stuff. So they went out and got it, and it actually is fairly economical. The whole setup and contraption, I think, even is under a couple $100 or a few $100, which is not bad for the wellness industry. So it's literally this like suit that you put on. It takes all of your measurements. It compares upper body fat to lower body fat. It does a really good job and pretty accurate job at assessing body composition. I've recently had a handful of clients that were so inspired by Andrea's recommendation and went out and got it. They just think it's so cool, and it gives them like these cool printouts of their body, and they can see how things are changing, and it maps out their progress, and it's really not focused on the weight at all. Like, it doesn't know your weight. Like, you have to input some metrics from it, but it really focuses on body transformation. And I think it's such a cool device. And nowadays when people reach out and ask me, well, what body composition scale or what scale should I get? I'm like, why don't you look into the Zozo Fit situation? Because even I'm inspired by it. Or I'll have this baby and then we're done having babies because I'm old now. And it'll be about getting back into optimal shape. And even I think I'm going to invest in a Zozo Fit. So that's a cool way and a fun way to sort of track metrics and get some data that I've been encouraging people to explore. And then another thing is too, if you're combating glucose issues, looking at your coefficient of variation on your Clarity report. For those of you who use Dexcom devices, whether it's like I don't even, G7, G1, I don't know. There's all these different Gs we've got going on now for the stilo. The Clarity report gives you your coefficient of variation. And often there's a lot of insights that lie in that. And, having your coefficient of variation sit around 15% is pretty good. And if you find that you're 18, 19, 22% often, then there's some work that can be happening on improving meals and improving meal timing on your eating days. By focusing on this, if the coefficient of variation is sitting around 22%, there's quite significant room for improvement there. And focusing on that can really help hone in and cause the weight to melt off as you're optimizing the glucose and insulin levels. So those are metrics, the inches, the coefficient of variation that I'm a really big fan of focusing on when you're going through these more intensive periods of fasting.
And then from a kind of mindset behavioral place, I might encourage people to do some tracking of cravings, satiety. How did I do getting from this meal till this meal? What did I do when I felt some urge to eat? How was my hunger? March is a month we're talking a lot about hunger here with Dr. Fung's new book coming out, but really to start tracking that, because I think most people find while I'm doing better with consistency in fasting and consistency in eating well, my hunger feels much more manageable. I'm not driven by hunger, any of the various types of hunger. So doing some tracking of those kind of variables of how are you doing after you eat? How are you doing while you're fasting? I think people are surprised when they see they're doing better and better the more consistent they are. So when they get to June and July, one of the things they can lean back into is consistency versus big efforts and then long periods of no effort. Consistency.
Well, Terri, hopefully we've given everyone some solid tips to make this turning up the dial fasting season this spring a successful one. Reach out, let us know how it's going. We look forward to connecting with you in Jason's masterclass and over at the Fasting Method community.
Take good care, everyone.
Happy fasting.